Alright, Chapter 9, Gasoline Mechanicals, Mechanical Locomotives General. Before the locomotive start with the radiator will be filled with clean and soft water with the avoid use of the alkaline water with the deposit sediment, eventually clogged with the radiator core. Sufficient oil will be placed with the crankcase with the oil level indicated register full or high. Supply with the fuel will begin when the fuel tank with the fuel shut off cock in open position both compartments. The transmission filled with the proper level with the proper lubricant. Lubricant instruction furnished each for the locomotive valve with the proper grade of the oil and grease will be used. Lift over the locomotive depends on the quality of the lubrication used with any of the locomotive lubricating attention given to it. Only lint rags and not waste will be used with the wiping locomotive. Lintless slags will be not waste will be used with the wiping locomotive the engine. Sandbox will be filled with out of the doors with the engine hood on the dry sharp sand with the wash free with the salt and clay will be maintenance. Lubrication remain with the engine with the magneto starting with the lighting and equipment will be in the conformance appropriate with the War Department technical manual accompanying with the equipment. Copy of the instruction possession with the officer in charge if no otherwise available. The request will be made with the chief of the transportation and supply set of instructions. 195 operation of the locomotive. To start with the engine, operator will turn the ignition switch, turn both the distributor and magneto switch, pull the choke out using the start button and cold boil with the bolt of the primer out 2 or 3 times before using start button. Operating an engine with the other magneto distributor on both. Allow engine to run a few minutes before operating locomotive. To start with the locomotive, operator will 1. Shift gears operate with the clutch throttle with the automobile or truck for an automobile or trucks and practice if it is necessary to prevent clashing with the gears, stalling with the engine. Control the forward reverse motion with the locomotive with the forward reverse lever the void, shifting the lever, make certain that the latch securely in place. Reverse direction, play with the gear with shift lever, low speed with the release clutch, bring locomotive into full stop by 4 reversing. Start in low gear regardless of the weight of the train. 6. As the train locomotive gear momentum, release clutch, shifting gears, second speed. On and up the third and fourth speed as rapidly momentum will permit. 7. Operate locomotive with a high gear whenever the possible. Control speed of the train by the throttle. Never operate with a high speed with the designated limit. In using locomotive brakes, operator will never attempt to brake the locomotive by engine compression. The descending with a grade such action will burn out the bearings, possibly break with the connection rods. 2. Disengage the transmission when not under the power control speed by brakes. Do not use the engine clutch or transmission as a brake. Alright, 196 precaution. To prevent unnecessary deterioration of the locomotives responsible for personnel in extremely cold weather, use the full choke with the cranking of the engine, necessary prime each with the cylinder through priming cups of the sparking plug holes. Never operate warm engine with the choke with the control pulled out. This will cause the engine to labor. Stop with the dilute with the crankcase oil. With never temper the engine governor and let the thoroughly familiar with the construction operation. Turn down grease cups on water pump once. Each day, but never remove the grease cup and install with the pressure type of the grease gun fittings. Keep engine all exposed parts clean. Check with the cover of the backfire and misfiring and with the engine correct. Protect with the end of the exhaust pipe with the brain if the engine is idle. 197 possible cause of the engine trouble. When the engine is hard to start, the operator will check with the battery for charge, the loose terminal with the low solution. Check magneto with the worn sticking bar with the damaged water soaked coil with the floor, the sticking point with the faulty condenser. Check with the distributor points to see if the worn and pitted water soaked sticking. 4. Check with the see if the fuel flow is obstructed with the carburetor flood water and fuel. 5. Check with the loose if the defect with the wiring, bad spark plug with the loose throttle with the governor valve with the leaking with the gasket with the non-seat valve with improper timing, except for the smoke with the exhaust may cause by 1. Too much oil in the crankcase. 2. The governor and needle valve open too far. 3. The sticking with the leaking flow. 4. Worn bearings and rings and cylinders. 6. Explosion in the muffler, usually called by retarded weak spark valve not seating out at the time. 1 or more cylinders not firing. D. Engine knocks rise except for the carbon loose bearing valves not free. With guides tapped to clear with a clearance too great. 4. Worn pistons, pins, and cylinders. 5. Engine overheated suitability of the engine. Loose flywheel, lack of water and oil. When the engine misfires, it may be caused by spark plugs, valve crack, shortened or improper gap, the defective wiring, ignition brake point, sticking in proper gap, dirt and water, and fuel system valves warped, broken tap that's sticking with improper adjusted gaskets leaking. When the engine lacks power, check for valves warped, sticking and sealed, worn, cylinder of the piston worn, score. 3. Piston rings worn, weak, broken, or sticking. 4. Improper fuel mixture fill not suited for the engine. 5. Muffler clogged. G. When the engine overheats is often caused by the lack of the water obstructed water house, the clogged radiator fan belt slipping, lack of the oil diluted. Oil, improper ignition timing, valve leaks, improper fuel mixture. H, poor compression result of the valves not seating properly. Tab sticking, set too close and correctly. Time, weak valve with a spring with the piston rings. Sticking, weak, worn or broke, loose, cracked, spark plugs, oil thin, seal piston rings, gaskets leaking. 198 inspection. Same general procedure will be followed outlining diesel electric locomotive. See Chapter 7 additional inspection. Gasoline engine report forms of the diesel electric locomotive. We give the gasoline maintenance locomotive. 199 maintenance, daily maintenance over the deal, daily responsibility of the maintenance personnel to check the level of the oil of the engine, air compressor, and oil to bring up the level up to the full mark gauge. Fill the air compressor by removing the top plug, pouring oil into the overflows. Give one turn to the grease cup of the distributor. Oil with the distributor between the axle and gives of the journal box. 5. Drain the air reservoir while the system contains the air under pressure. 6. Drain the air strainer. 7. Fill the gasoline tank, radiator, and sand boxes. 8. Clean the oil filter side of the engine. Give it a handle several complete turns. 9. Examine the gasoline filter of the carburetor. If the water and sediment are present, close shut off, remove the bowl, and clean. Weekly maintenance additional of the daily maintenance. The maintenance personnel will drain the engine oil while the hot, removing the plug in the oil pan, removing the oil screen with wash with kerosene, put proper quantity with a grade of new oil in the engine, remove the oil filter, drying the sump of the pump by removing the drain plug, flush the filter with the gasoline, reinstall, check the height of the oil bowl for the compartments of the transmission, add oil with the inch compartment to restore the proper oil level. 6. Clean air filters over the carburetor, air compressor, washing light oil with add mixture with the oil and kerosene, the clutch oil until the mixture runs to the overflow. Lubricate clutch sleeve with the proper lubricant. 9. Lubricating fan clutch throughout with the bearing should. Cross equalizer journals, bearings, filled distributed grease cap with the cup grease of the oil, magneto generator, benzo drive with light oil, the brake pins, speed change lever, reverse the level of the track with the fan, air compressor belts, just necessary, eliminate slippage with the no belt with the dressing of the void, getting the oil grease on the belt pulleys. 12. Check the brake shoe travel the shoe travel that does not exceed 1.5 inch. Check the air brake system for the leaks of the applying with the air brakes note with the reduction with the air reservoir pressure. Do not allow the pressure to drop over 5 pounds per minute. If the leak is greater than the amount with the trace limit, eliminate it. 14. Check with the battery and hydrometer. See with the L of the cell with the property operating with the gravity low. Increase the charging rate with the generator. If the gravity high, reduce the charging rate. Add the diluted water to the battery, bringing a level up to a half inch above the plates. 15. Check all nuts and fastening connections. C. Monthly maintenance. In addition to the daily and weekly maintenance, A and B above, the maintenance personnel will drain the air compressor, refill the oil, drain the refill of the clutch with the proper mixture of the oil and kerosene, remove the clean spark plug, check the gap with the gauge and reset with the maintenance points of the necessary. 4. Clean breaker points of the distributor, check with the gap with the gauge with the reset with the points necessary. Clean the points of magneto, check with the gap with the reset with the points of the necessary. 6. Clean and adjust the points, making sure that the chains do not have initial tension or not in slack enough to flap and high speed. Bi-monthly. Additional daily, weekly, monthly maintenance A, B, and C above. The maintenance personnel will drain the transmission and refill for the proper grade quantity of the oil. Remove the chains, wash kerosene, soak in engine oil, and replace. Semi-annual maintenance addition with the daily, weekly, monthly, monthly maintenance A, B, C, and D above. The maintenance personnel will remove the axle bearing cap, flush with the kerosene, replace with the caps, put proper lubricant in each bearing to remove the brake cylinder head and piston, clean the lubricate with the brake cylinder lubricant, test the air gauge with the master gauge, check air safety valve reset with the necessary see if the safety valve opens at 80 pounds, remove the engine cylinder head, clean off the carbon grind valves, remove the air compressor, clean over the off the carbon. Reset air compressor unloader to cut out at 79 pounds. 200. Preparation of Ocean Transit. In event of the necessary preparing gasoline mechanical locomotives overseas shipment, the detailed instructions will be issued in proper authority. Chapter 10. Operation Maintenance of Auto Railers.